Indianapolis 500, the simulation, is a 1989 PC and 1990 Amiga racing video game by Papyrus Design Group. It was the first release from the legendary sim racing studio that went on to define the genre. The game was intended as a realistic simulation of the 1989 Indianapolis 500 and featured Penske, Lola and March chassis as raced in the real-life race that year. It featured many firsts in sim racing and is considered by many to be the first true racing simulation. Okay, so let's flip this over. This is the PC version. It looks like PC screenshots. When I move it a little bit closer here, you can see a lot of the text and you should be able to pause and read pretty much everything you want to. Screenshots are showing in cockpit and replay cameras and everything. You can see the system requirements at the bottom left. Now this box actually didn't have the information in the front cover, and it opened up at the top. So inside the box of this one, a command summary card, which is essentially a condensed manual. Kind of just gives you the basics. Yeah, just basically basic chassis information. Over on the right hand side you can see actually all of the video modes there, VGA, CGA, etc. And like I said, you should have been able to pause and read any of that if you wanted to. This is the actual disc. It came on a single disc. Even the 5 1/4 inch version, I think, came on a single disc. So the manual is actually really, really good here. It's got a lot of information about the Indy 500, a lot of history, and it's got one of the best written anti-piracy intros that I've ever seen in my life. Obviously, you can pause and read this if you wish to. So anyway, it takes you through the month of May, how qualifying works and everything. The game doesn't have that. It has just a single 4-lap qualifying. Takes you through the cockpits, where everything's located, car setup. Actually explains it to you, which is fantastic. This is where I first learned about car setup, and is pretty much why I consider this to be the first simulation, because the settings that you did actually did some of the right things to the car. Some flag info. Interesting map of Indianapolis Motor Speedway as it was in 1989. It's interesting that they, obviously the major difference is that they did add a road course, which went through the infield. Kind of did follow some of these pathways here. You actually went into just after the pit entry there, obviously going the wrong way around the oval. Then you will go down Hullman Boulevard, and roughly over here, and then back out onto the oval. And then they used the inside of turn 1, I think, after they realized that F1 cars would blow their tires. Some more kind of the pageantry information of the race. Information on the cameras that are available, basic racing line information, such as how to take the apex. And then over on the right hand side, in a moment, you can see the winners, which basically they did this for their copy protection system, but I found it absolutely fascinating to go through this and actually just look at the miles and the speeds that they won in and the amount of time that they spent. These are almost 7-hour races that these people are doing right at the beginning. And you can see it's down to 5 hours now by the 1930s. 2 hours and 46 minutes there. Probably a shortened race, that was, I'm not sure. But once they started to consider safety and they had yellow flags and things like that, obviously it extended the times quite a bit. And if you've been paying attention, at the bottom of certain pages there was a quiz, and those were the answers on the left-hand page. Okay, and also in that box, the IBM PC box, was a registration card with Good Times Software in New York. So I've skipped over some of the other versions of Indy 500 that I have because they're essentially just re-releases or boxed sort of box sets with other types of games, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of actual information in there. But here we have an unopened copy for the Amiga of Indy 500, and it actually has the opening front, which tells you information about Dave Kamer, who obviously went on to found iRacing. So you can see it's the same cover image, same general design that you saw on the other box version. Blue sides instead of black sides on the box, and generally the same design on the back. You can see the system requirements for the Amiga there. Just obviously go back and pause if you wanted to read things a little bit closer, but you should be able to read them now actually. And like I said, this one actually opens on the front rather than the top. And you can see some information about the founding of Papyrus, essentially. Feel free to pause and obviously read that over. This is a command summary card. It's essentially the same information that you saw in the other box. The difference with the Amiga version, obviously, is that it did have mouse control, which actually allowed for analog steering. You could move the mouse a little bit to steer a little bit, whereas on the PC, you only had keyboard input, which was a digital button, obviously, so you could steer maximum or you could steer nothing. So you would generally be tapping the steering button or kind of pushing, releasing to get around the corners. I finally found a car simulation I can drive. Some really nice kind of a review there. And look at some of the other titles here. You've got Populous, Chuck Yeager, just awesome. It's a pretty awesome time. I really, really enjoyed the Commodore Amiga. So the 5-inch version that I have as well, it's actually the exact same box, and you can see it goes in that square there. The floppy disk actually, it's still only one floppy disk, but it actually goes in those two boxes. And then I have no idea what the larger container size is for. But yeah, that's my copies of Indianapolis 500 that I wanted to show you guys. You can see 1989 for the PC and 1990 for the Amiga. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.